Hello and welcome to another episode of Rebuild Your Body, brought to you by BluePhoenix Fitness, where it is our job to help you reclaim your health, lose weight, and become the strongest version of you. Find out more at BluePhoenixFitness.com. I am your host, Cameron Makarchuk, and today we got a great episode. We're going to be talking all about the best bodyweight exercises for beginners. So if you're just starting off on your fitness journey, you're just starting to work out, maybe you're working out at home, this is going to be a great episode for you. What we're going to cover today is talking all about why bodyweight workouts and bodyweight exercises are probably a good place for you to start. Then we're going to get into the 7 movements that you should know and master before moving into anything more complex or complicated. And then I'm going to give you 29 bodyweight exercises broken up into different levels for you as a beginner to start off with. But first, as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, be sure to drop them in the comments below this video, or you can always shoot us a message at BluePhoenix Fitness on Instagram. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe. We're putting out new videos all the time, so make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell so you get the alerts so you never miss another episode. When you're just starting off on your fitness journey, the biggest thing that you need is momentum. You want to take as many of the barriers, take as many of the excuses away as possible, especially in that beginning phase. And that's why bodyweight workouts and bodyweight exercises are a really great place for most people to start off, because it eliminates a lot of the most common excuses that people have when they start working out. Things like, I don't have time to go to the gym, I don't have access to a gym, I can't afford a gym, I don't know what to do, I don't know what exercises to do. You know, all of those excuses, all of those reasons, all those barriers become essentially non-existent when you start off with simple bodyweight workouts that you can do at home in the convenience of your own home. You don't need a gym, you don't need to afford a gym, you don't need money because bodyweight workouts are literally cost nothing, and you barely need any time because with what I'm going to show you, some of the exercises that I'll show you and some of the bodyweight workouts that we have available at BluePhoenixFitness.com, you don't need a lot of time. You can get in and out of your workout in, as little as 5 or 10 minutes. There's an article on BluePhoenixFitness.com where I show you 10 different workouts that you can do in as little as 4 minutes. So if you have 4 minutes of time, you can crank out a very effective fat burning, fitness building workout in the comfort of your own home with zero equipment. Bodyweight exercises also tend to be a much safer place for people to start off because you're not loading your body with all this extra weight and resistance. So a lot of people's concerns when they go to start strength training is that, they don't know how to do it properly, so they're afraid that they're going to get hurt. Well, bodyweight exercises, it's not that it's impossible to get hurt. You can still injure yourself if you don't know what you're doing and you're not doing correct form on different exercises, but it's a lot harder. It's a much safer place for you to start because you're literally just moving your own body. You're not lifting any additional weight. You're just moving your own body weight. So it becomes a lot safer and a lot less risk of injury for you. Now, as you get stronger and those bodyweight exercises get easier, you do want to start adding more weight and adding more resistance. That can be with dumbbells, with resistance bands, with barbells and weight plate, kettlebells, sandbags, all kinds of different things and different tools. But in the beginning, starting off with some very simple bodyweight exercises, you can still build up some strength and you can still lose weight if either one of those things is important to you. You can still do both of those things without having to get into any external resistance in the beginning. Now, to make it very, very simple for you, there's basically 7 movement patterns that you need to learn and master that all of the other exercises that you're going to do are going to build off of. So those 7 movement patterns are squats, bending or deadlifts, lunges, pushes, and that's vertical and horizontal, pulling, and that's vertical and horizontal, rotating, and carrying. Okay, so those 7 functional movement patterns are the only 7 movement patterns that you need to think about and master when you are just starting off with bodyweight exercises. Okay, now let's get into some different exercises to actually show you what those movement patterns actually look like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you 29 different bodyweight exercises, and we'll keep them in those 7 categories: squats, bends, lunges, push, pull, rotate, carry. I'm gonna keep them in those categories, and all of these are gonna be versions of level 1 beginner type exercises that you can start off with when you are starting to work out at home. Okay, so the very first section we're gonna look at is the squat movement. So I'm gonna show you 4 exercises that fall into the squat movement pattern. And each of those, we're gonna start with the easiest one, and then we'll get a little bit more challenging, a little bit more challenging, and a little bit more challenging. So start with the easiest one first. As you get stronger and you build up some strength in your lower body and in this squat movement pattern, then you can move into the more challenging ones as you need to, okay? But 4 squat exercises. The most basic one, the easiest one, is gonna be a bodyweight box squat. So for this one, you're gonna need a stool or a bench or even a chair or something that you can sit down into. Now, depending on how tall you are and how good your mobility is getting down into a deeper position, this is gonna be higher or lower. So obviously the lower the bench is, the more challenging it's gonna be to get down into that position under control. So I usually tell people to get something about knee high, but if you're just really starting off, or maybe you're a little bit older, you don't have quite that mobility or strength to get into the squat position, maybe even a little bit higher into the mid-thigh. Regardless, I have a little stool here. So basically all you're gonna do is stand in front of the stool, and you're just gonna sit down under control, down onto that bench. Then you're gonna drive back up on your legs. Okay, you're gonna sit down onto that bench under control, and then you're gonna stand back up again. Okay, so very, very simple. Next up is gonna be an assisted bodyweight squat. So for this one, imagine that I have something coming out here. I don't have TRX straps, but you could do this with either some straps coming down off the wall or the ceiling, or you could do it with a spouse or a partner, workout partner that you can hold on to. But basically you're just gonna have some support, you're gonna hold on to something, and you're gonna lower yourself into that squat position. Then you're gonna use that assistance to basically pull yourself up with your arms and push with your legs. So you're gonna hold on to something, lower yourself down, and then pull to get yourself up out of that squat position. Once you build up some strength doing that, then you can get into just a regular bodyweight squat. So that's gonna be just a simple, right, bodyweight squat. So just standing, sitting down into that chair, right, and then coming back up under control. Sitting back, right, and then coming back up. So a simple bodyweight squat. Once that becomes a little bit too easy for you, then you could actually get into 1.5 reps. So with a 1.5 rep squat, that you're just gonna come down, and before coming all the way back up, you'll come up halfway, kind of pulse, and then stand back up. So you're doing 1.5, half, and up. So 1.5 reps, okay? So those are 4 versions of a bodyweight squat that you literally need 0 equipment for, aside from maybe a bench. All right, so we're gonna get into a bend movement pattern. So bend, hinge, deadlift, whatever you wanna call it. We're looking for a hip dominant movement working the back side of the body. So we're getting into the glutes, hamstrings, that sort of thing. First of all, the most basic level of the bending movement that you can start doing at home is just a basic hip bridge. So basically what you're gonna do is lay down on your back, and this is as basic as it gets. On your back, on the mat, and you're just pushing your hips up, squeezing your bum at the top, and coming back down. Push back up, and come back down, okay? If you want, you can get into some single leg movements coming up and back down, right? But basically, you're just doing that very simple hip bridge. Now, moving on from that, you can get into some hip bridge marching. So with this one, you're gonna push your hips up. Now, you're gonna stabilize on one leg, just bring one knee up and back down. Maintaining that bridge, you're just gonna alternate marching. So very slowly, back and forth, okay? So that's a little more challenging than just a simple hip bridge. Now, moving on from that, we can get into the actual deadlift type movement. Now, being at home, it's not super easy. Maybe you don't have a lot of equipment, maybe no equipment. But what I'll show you next is how you can do a very simple deadlift movement with just a broomstick to get you started. Okay, so now I've gotten a basic broom, right? So just very, very simple. You can use anything, just a stick, a dowel, whatever. But with this, we're gonna actually start to work on that deadlift movement pattern. So a deadlift is where you're gonna shift your hips back, you're bending down, right? Your back is nice and flat, and then you're standing back up again. So it's that very simple hip dominant movement. We're sliding the hip back and squeezing the bum at the top, okay? Now I did a whole video on proper deadlift hip hinge movement form. So I'll link that in the comments below the video. You should definitely check that out. But just getting started with a deadlift when you're at home, no equipment, use a broomstick, right? And you can just get started this way here. Okay. So now we're getting into a lunge variation, lunge movement pattern. So for this one, I'm gonna show you 4 different movements. Well, basically 2 different movements, but a variation of both of them that you can do, again, with no equipment. So the first one being the very, very most simple one is gonna be just a assisted split squat. So same thing as what we talked about when I went over the assisted squat, is if you have something to hold on to, so either a TRX or maybe you have a partner that you can hold onto their hand, or a wall or something. But basically, you're gonna get into this split squat position. You're gonna hold on to something that is then gonna give you some support on the way down, so you can come down, and then pushing back up, you can give yourself a little boost with whatever you're holding on to. So you're gonna give yourself some support on the way down, and then you can give yourself a little boost as you stand back up again, all right? Moving on from that, you can just drop the supports. So moving on from that, we have just a basic body weight split squat where you're just gonna lower yourself down under control and then push back up on that front leg. Lower down and push back up on the front leg. Moving on from that one, we can get into some actual movement, right? So again, if you have something to hold on to, this is an assisted reverse lunge. So holding onto something for support, you're just gonna do the exact same thing, but you're gonna actually be moving that leg back and then back up again. So again, you're holding onto something here to give you a little boost as you stand back up again. Down and a little boost. And moving on from that to make it a little more challenging, drop the supports, don't hold anything, and you just move into a basic reverse lunge, okay? Now another variation on both of those, actually similar with the squat that I showed you, is a 1.5 rep version of both of those. So you could do 1.5 reps of a split squat, okay? Down, a little pulse, and back up. You could also do 1.5 reps of a reverse lunge, right? Down, 1.5, and back up, okay? So you can change those variations depending on how strong your lower body is and how challenging you need the movements to be. Okay, so now we're gonna get into some pulling exercises. So when you're working out at home, it is a little more challenging if you don't have any equipment at all to work the upper back area. So I'm gonna show you 3 exercises here that can give you at least a little bit of activation in the upper back to start getting that pulling motion, even though you are working at home with no equipment. The first one we're gonna do is just a lying YTW. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay face down on a mat like this. And from here, basically you're gonna keep your head up. So you wanna keep your spine, your head neutral, right? Not down like this, not like this. You wanna keep it nice and neutral. And all you're gonna do is with your arms, you're gonna start in this Y position. So if you imagine my arms are a Y, you're gonna hold that for about 10-15 seconds and then slowly come down into a W position and then slowly out into a T position. And you're just gonna slowly go back and forth from a Y to a W to a T. And so this is gonna start to get a little bit of activation in the upper back and start to pull your shoulders back a little bit without needing any equipment at all. Okay, so that's the simplest one. Next, I'll show you a bent over reverse fly and then a bent over row as well. Next, we're gonna look at a bent over reverse fly. So again, Not super challenging if you don't have any equipment, but it's at least gonna start to get you pulling your shoulders back. So very simple, all you're gonna do is you're gonna shift your hips back, you're gonna bend over, keeping your back nice and flat, keeping your chest, up a little bit. And all I want you to do is think of bringing your arms out and back, and then back down. So I like to do this, you can do this either palms up, and think of bringing your thumbs back, up and back, right? Squeezing your shoulder blades together at the top. And then another variation, you can go palms down and think of bringing your pinkies together up and back the other way. Now, both are good. I would do a combination of the two, right? Go palms down for a while and then go palms up, doing a few reps of each, or alternating. Maybe you do 1 week of doing palms down, the next week you do palms up. Whatever, it's still working in the upper back area, just a minor difference in the hand position. So then once that becomes a little bit easier, you could actually grab some soup cans as well, things like soup cans or anything you can hold in your hands that can actually act as weights as well. That'll make that a little bit more challenging. But moving on from that, we can get into an actual bent over row. So again, when you don't have any equipment, it's a little bit more challenging. But what you could do is if you have some reusable grocery bags, like these guys here, you could actually fill these with whatever, groceries, books, whatever's gonna make them a little bit heavier. But then you could just mimic an actual bent over row. So, you put your hands through here, holding onto the handles, and you're just gonna basically mimic a bent over row. So you're gonna sit back in that bent over position, and then you're just pulling these grocery bags straight up in that same way you would do with dumbbells or a barbell or kettlebells. You can actually do it with grocery bags if you don't have any of that other equipment, all right? And then you can adjust the weight of it by either adding more stuff into the bags or taking some stuff out, whatever the case may be. So 3 pulling exercises when you don't have any equipment at home. Okay, so getting into push exercises. So when you're working out at home, the most common thing you're gonna do is gonna be push-ups, push-up variations. So the first, most simplest, easiest way to do a push-up when you're first getting started is up against a wall. So basically all you're doing is you're coming up against a wall and you're just gonna lower yourself down and push back up, okay? You wanna be under control. This is maybe gonna feel pretty easy, or it will feel easy fairly quickly. But as you're doing those, just to start off, just to start building up a little bit of strength, thinking about keeping your hips locked, your bum is tight, and you're lowering your whole body as one, okay? Now, as that becomes a little bit easier, the next step would be doing push-ups on a countertop. So you're just gonna slowly lower your hands as you get stronger. So if you have something that's maybe a little bit lower that you can get a countertop, like an island or something, that's gonna be the best option for you moving, into the next step. And then just, gradually get a little lower and a little lower and a little lower until you can, maybe do them off the couch, like I'm gonna show you in a second, and then slowly get into some full push-up variations on the floor. But you wanna slowly and gradually, start with your hands a little bit higher, push-ups, and then just a little bit lower push-ups, a little bit lower and a little bit lower until you're actually on the ground, like I'm gonna show you in a second. Now, as you get stronger with your push-ups and you get more confident and comfortable with the push-up exercise and the motion, and you get more upper body strength, you can move into maybe doing push-ups on your couch or push-ups, full push-ups on the floor. So push-ups on your couch could be done a couple different ways. You can either do on your knees, thinking of hands on the couch, keeping your hips tight, your bum tight, and you're basically just gonna lower yourself down onto Tugs here. Kiss. Thanks, Tugs. And then you're gonna push yourself back up again, right? You're lowering yourself down and pushing yourself back up. Lower down and push back up. So a bit of an easier version of a push-up. If you're getting, some good strength in the upper body, then you could, hands on the couch, doing up on the toes and doing an actual full push-up that way, which is still gonna be a little bit less challenging than the full push-up on the ground because you're taking a little bit of your body weight away, but it is still quite a challenging exercise variation of that. Now, as you get stronger still, then you could get into full push-ups on the floor, right? And so that is just basically as it sounds. You're just doing regular push-ups, coming all the way down, leading with the chest and pushing back up. Lead with the chest, push back up, okay? Now, don't race into full push-ups like that. Everyone thinks, well, I want to do push-ups, so I want to do them on the floor. I want to do full push-ups. And they end up doing really awful form push-ups and blowing their shoulders out. So don't do that. Take your time, work through the variations I've showed you for push-ups until you are strong enough to do the floor full push-ups properly. Next, we're going to go into a rotation. So I'm going to show you 2 rotation exercises, just different variations of the 2. They're both about the same difficulty level, but once you get a little stronger in both of these, then you can start adding some weight if you have it. Again, soup cans, grocery bags, things like that, something that you can actually lift. But the most basic version, if you have 0 equipment and you're just starting off at home, is just a basic standing rotation. So if you stand, feet about shoulder width apart, arms together, and all you're going to do is just rotate to one side as far as you can, and then come back, rotate the other way as far as you can, and back. Okay? Now the main thing with this one is you don't want to be, just throwing your arms around and twisting like that. You want to be under control. So keep the core tight, just rotate around and under control the whole way through. Now past that, you could get into a half kneeling bodyweight wood chop. So coming down on one knee, same idea, but you're going to come at an angle, coming up and back down. Come up and back down. So again, you're under control, you're keeping your core tight, and you're just thinking of that rotation and back down. All right? So 2 very, very simple rotating exercises. And finally, we have the carry movement pattern. So this is just going to be a loaded carry of some kind. So think of carrying your groceries in from the car, carrying your groceries out to the car. And the way we're going to do that at home is literally carrying your groceries. So you're going to take your grocery bags, you're going to load them up with some weight of groceries, of pets, of little small children, whatever the case may be. You're going to put some weight in them and you're just going to carry it. Now, you want this carry to be under control walking. So you want to think perfect posture, your head is up, your shoulders are back, right? Just think of what you think of when you think perfect posture, and that's what you're going to look like. So your chest is up, and you're going to take very slow and deliberate steps as you are walking with your bags. Now, the common mistake that people make with loaded carries is they walk way too fast, okay? So you want this to be under control because your core is stabilizing. This is primarily a core stabilization exercise in a way. You are stabilizing your core is activated as you are moving through space. So hold onto those grocery bags nice and tight, chest up, and you're taking just very slow, deliberate steps as you are walking. Thinking the whole time about perfect posture, shoulders back, core tight, and thinking of pulling that belly button into the spine as you're walking. Okay, so loaded carry, you can adjust the weight as you need to, but start with a little bit of weight, get comfortable with it, and aim for anywhere from 30 seconds up to 1 or 2 minutes at a time. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you liked that, if that was helpful, if you got something out of that, drop a thumbs up on below the video. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, definitely drop those below the video in the comments. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like some of the other videos that I've put together. So I'll put one of those right here beside my head, and you can click on that, and I will see you over there.